So, hello and welcome to yet another Ask Me Anything on behalf of Neuro Pride Ireland and our Neuro Pride 22 festival. The theme for this Ask Me Anything is I'm a neurodivergent professional. Ask Me Anything. And today we're very fortunate to have three really amazing neurodivergent professionals who are here to talk about what it's like to be a neurodivergent professional and why they got into what they do. So we have Evelyn from Awesome Training and Confident Kids, sorry. We have Tara from Thriving Autistic, and we have Katie from Horizons Therapy in the Dock. So yes, thank you all very kindly for agreeing to take part. I'm really looking forward to this. So what I might do is I might call on you to just kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself and your business. So, Evelyn, would you like to tell us more?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Evelyn. I run Awesome Training and Confident Kids, as you said. I've been working for myself since I left college, really. So that's 20 odd years. I have made my special interest my work always. So before I was doing this, I was a speech and drama teacher. And then in the past 8 years, since I found out I was autistic, I suppose wanted to, educate people. So I set up Awesome Training to give autistic people a platform and to, change the narrative around our existence. And then Confident Kids kind of reimagined there when COVID came along. We used to do classes in Cork, drama classes, and we used to run classes for autistic kids then to kind of support them in different ways. And obviously COVID got rid of all of that. So we moved everything online. So we have that business as well now, which is kind of cool. So we've got kids coming from different parts of the world now, whereas it was just like a few classes in Cork. So yeah, it's been a busy 2 years, to be honest.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Katie, would you like to describe what you do?
Sure. So I'm Katie. I'm an occupational therapist. I'm multiply neurodivergent. So I found out I was dyspraxic along my studies to be an occupational therapist. That wasn't the whole picture, but I didn't know it at the time. I have also mostly worked in private practice, but not for myself. My own business was actually 4 years old in July, just gone on the 1st of July. So 4 years in business. Kind of along the way, setting up my own business was when I started to really dig into my own ADHD and autism as well. So that was a more recent discovery for me. And it kind of came with expanding my practice to work more with autistic adults. And along that way, I kind of realized that speaking to these people was very much like speaking to myself. And I very much related, and that kind of opened my mind. So my practice includes children and adults, mostly neurodivergent. We have SLT, so speech and language therapy, clinical psychology and occupational therapy here for children and for adults. And we're very passionate about making sure that what we do is neuroaffirmative.
I think you're muted there, Gillian.
Sorry, I was just asking Tara if you'd like to tell us a bit Thriving Autistic. Sorry.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Tara and I'm autistic. I'm an applied positive psychologist. Previously, I was psychotherapist, so I'm kind of integrative. I run Thriving Autistic, and we're a nonprofit started just over around nearly 2 years, I think now. And the idea with Thriving Autistic was to create a platform to support other autistic and otherwise neurodivergent psychologists, coaches, educators, therapists, occupational therapists, speech and language therapists, to kind of create a space for us to support each other as well as support our community. And it's just really actually been quite amazing to be working with other neurodivergent people and to see the different strengths that we all have, and how they can work together so beautifully, and how we can really just, I guess, support each other. If we need time off, if someone needs time off, or another person has difficulty with scheduling client sessions, or somebody else has difficulty with invoicing, that we all just really work to our strengths to make it work. And that's something that's really special that I had never experienced before in my years working for myself. And we are now, there's 42 of us, and we are based well, mostly in the UK, a couple of people in Ireland, and loads of people in the US and Canada too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And just following on from that, Evelyn, I was wondering, what strengths do you think being neurodivergent give you in terms of being a professional and the work that you do?
All of it. All of it. I don't think I don't know. I don't know what I'd be like if I wasn't autistic, but I just think it's, you know, creativity. I think probably not being afraid of risk as well, probably not thinking too much about it. I just go do the thing that feels right. I don't like make these lists of pros and cons. I just kind of am very much guided by my emotions, what feels right for me at the time. Doesn't mean it's always right, but it's definitely a big part of it. I kind of navigate things a lot by just kind of feeling how stuff is going, you know, like obviously I get feedback from people like through surveys and stuff like that, but it's like you can kind of tap into how things are going, I think, as well. I'm really good at judging, I think, like the mood in a room or how things are going, things like that, I think, which are definitely part of being neurodivergent, for me anyway. But definitely I think the creative side of it, and the fact that I would crack up if I had to work like in an office setting with loads of people. Like, I think that was my worst nightmare. Worst fear. Yeah, so I suppose, yeah, there's probably lots more things that I haven't thought about that will come to me, you know, when this is finished.
Of course, it's always the way. 3 o'clock in the morning, you'll wake up and be like, oh my God, yeah. Katie, obviously you're working quite hands-on with people. How do you find your own neurodivergence informs your practice, I suppose?
It's a massive part of my practice. And I think it goes with what Evelyn said about you don't fit the neurotypical mold. So most, I suppose, agencies and employers are that mold that you can't fit into. So we're the type of people who think, what if and how about, and shall I do it this way and see what happens? So we're more inclined to be, like Evelyn said, creative. I think a big thing for me, like you said, the hands-on side of my job is that a lot of my clients are neurodivergent. And I know I always feel so strange saying this as a professional, but I do feel there's an intuition or a vibe that we get when we're around our fellow neurodivergents. And I think that is a really helpful part of my practice. Another thing I found really helpful is revealing my own neurodivergence to my clients, and, you know, being able to say, listen, I understand some of what you're going through, or I might have a similar worldview, not identical, but maybe similar. And I think that's a really nice thing to be able to say to somebody, is like, I get it. And kids love that as well. You know, kids find that so exciting when you say, do you know what, I'm autistic too, or I'm dyspraxic as well. And then the questions flow and the relationship is different. And you have this sort of kind of interest and dynamic that I don't think you would have had otherwise. So I think that's a really big thing, is being able to bring that into my practice, and even being able to communicate with parents and say, listen, I'm autistic, and so is your child. You might be as well, but, you know, these are the great things that we experience. And, you know, these are some challenges that we might experience, but, you know, it's really, I think people find it quite interesting to talk to a grown-up version. Sometimes they don't expect it.
Yeah, I find that as well because I'm an early childhood educator who works in domestic abuse services, and neurodivergent people are unfortunately overrepresented in those services. And I find that too, that I might know exactly why your child is doing a particular thing, but I'd be like, look, if I was doing it, this is why I'd be doing it.
Yeah.
And something that makes sense to me, or makes look like, well, obviously this is obvious. And oftentimes caregivers are like, what? They just, if it's not your experience, like, to me, it's like, well, this is probably why they're doing it. And they're like, this revelation, you're like, no, it just makes sense. So yes, I do think it's an important, it makes me good at my job. Being neurodivergent makes me good at my job.
And I think that's so important for younger neurodivergent people and children to see and to hear. I'm good at my job because I'm neurodivergent. And another thing Evelyn said that I kind of wanted to piggyback on was making your special interest your job. I don't think you can match the passion of a neurodivergent doing something they love. And I know I can be very obsessive about like the research and the voices of the communities that I'm trying to work with. And it does not feel like, people often say to me, like, you're doing it too much, this is too much work. But when it is your special interest, it's not work. You know, I could be down that rabbit hole quite happy. I'm not going to feel tired from it. I will possibly feel energized from it. And then I'm buzzing to get in and, you know, include it into the clinic. So that's really nice. And I suppose another side of my job that I think, I had a person once tell me I had a childlike spirit, and at the time I felt kind of offended because I was like, I'm a grown adult. But I mean, I work in a place like this, so I get to play all the time. And I think children know when you're with them, you're playing with them instead of observing them play. So there's something about that connection, that lack of social hierarchy that autistics are so good at, seeing everybody on my same level.
Thank you very much. And actually that answered one of the questions that came in, which is like, did your particular interest inspire your career? So Tara, you've mentioned that you've kind of been involved in business and starting up businesses for a very long time. So I would pose that question to you. Have your particular interests inspired your career or your work?
Yeah, absolutely. The same, I think, as what the other two brilliant panelists are saying. For me, I always wanted to connect with people, but I just felt so different as a kid, and I couldn't connect really with people. I couldn't figure out motivations. I couldn't understand why people didn't do what they said, or, you know, I'm a very literal thinker. I tell the truth, like I really do tell the truth. And I know this is something that a lot of autistic people share. There are no like layers and layers behind what I say and what I do. It really is, you know, take it as you see it. And I just couldn't understand why, number one, that upset so many people and offended them. And then also why nobody else was doing that, why everybody, what it seemed in my life as a child growing up, everybody was telling me a certain thing, but they were doing something different. And their faces didn't match what they were saying either. And I couldn't understand. And I felt like an alien. So I think from then I started studying psychology.
It's
trying
amazing.
to figure out, was I an alien? How do people work? Why isn't my brain working like that? You know, what's going on? And how do I actually connect with people? So, yeah.
I think that's why an awful lot of autistic and otherwise neurodivergent, but predominantly autistic researchers, autistic therapists, autistic, like, that's the reason they got into it. They're like, I don't understand humans and I'd like to, you know, these particular So I am aware that all of you are particularly busy people, particularly kept going. And I know, Katie, you said about getting energized from the work because you're interested in it and it is your interest and blah, blah. But Evelyn, I'd like to ask, because you're still autistic, how do you prevent, or how do you like kind of store yourself up against autistic burnout or neurodivergent burnout? Like, or do you just let it happen and kind of ride the wave? I don't know.
Good time to ask me this question, because I actually had 2 weeks holidays in June. For the first time, like since my honeymoon 10 years ago, I was like, when is the last time I actually took 2 full weeks off away from work? Because for everybody who's self-employed, it's really hard to do, really hard. There's social media, there's someone ringing you about something, whatever. But I'm very lucky. I have, you know, Anna and Orla who work with me and are just brilliant. So I was actually in a position this year to just go and switch off for 2 weeks. And it was just amazing. And I came home and I couldn't motivate myself to do anything. I took another week off. It was literally like I've gone from one extreme to the other. All the important things I wanted to do before I left just didn't seem to matter much. It just really kind of put things in perspective. So, you know, I've kind of said to myself and my husband to like, you know, this is where I need to be. Well, I mean, not like I was when I came home for holidays, I wanted to do anything. I'm kind of back into some sort of routine now, but watching how much time I spend at work, not sitting at my desk here, but thinking about stuff, reading, you know, social media, reading things, all the stuff that go with it to inform my work as well. It was kind of like I was spending all of my time on it. So I do have to be careful. The last 2 years have just been kind of crazy for everybody anyway, obviously. So I think we're all maybe reestablishing boundaries with things in our lives. You know, we were all stuck at home, kind of a different time for everyone, so it's hard to say, but like I didn't realize either, I think, when I was getting burnt out. For me, that's been a big thing in the last couple of years, really, is actually like knowing the signs, realizing when I need to take a break. And I've got rid of that awful guilt I used to have of and rationalizing like taking a day off to myself. Like, you know, you've done all these things now, Evelyn, so you can take the day off. I'm like, what? You know, like, and I'm sure you're nodding. It's like,
we're all like,
you know, it's a response to all the trauma we've had in our lives, isn't it? Kind of, we're not worth taking.
I was just going to mention that the whole people pleasing, it applies to yourself as well. That, oh, if I just keep going, then you're still seeking that affirmation. Yeah.
And being overproductive, being like your worth is linked to your productivity, all of that stuff. So I think for me, like learning about trauma and, you know, looking at my own trauma and then kind of, you know, trying to work through that stuff has been, you know, means I've made massive changes in my own life. But I think the first thing for me is looking out for the signs. And the minute things go, it's like, oh, work got busy. That's my excuse. It's like, you know, I could go to the gym for like every morning for whatever, a few weeks, and then it's like, but then work got busy. It's like, work doesn't get busy. I work for myself. I need to be on top of my own schedule. You know, it gets as busy as I want it to be. I can postpone things. I can, you know, move things around. I can say no to things, and I do. And I think that's a really important part of learning, yeah, and learning how to plan things and go, you know, I get so excited. And also because the work I do, you know, I mean, we all know there's like a lot of work to do in this area. We want people to be educated. So sometimes I'm driven by that, this overwhelming need to fix things. And then it's kind of just stepping back and saying, right, I can't do everything. And there's other wonderful people who can, like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think taking the time and, just like, it's hard because I love my work. It's like it's a part of me, but that doesn't mean it's the only thing I have to do. Where, you know, so I think for me, taking that time off was like, oh, I'm reading books about trees now, and you know, I just got my bike out. I'm going cycling again. Just making time for other things, because it can't just be work and then family and then, you know, trying to, you know, get a little bit of time for yourself where you're thinking about work. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's how to kind of avoid it a bit. Anyway, hopefully you can ask me again now next year and see how I'm getting on.
Exactly. Tara, just linking to what Evelyn said about trauma there. As we all know, as we're all painfully aware, trauma is a very prevalent thing within our communities. How do you parse between trauma and neurodivergence, like in terms of, you know, how do you make that distinction, or is there a distinction to be made?
Yeah, we were,
sorry, that was a question.
This is something that comes up a lot this comes up a lot with people who are going through, like adults who are going through assessment, because you know, I think we've probably all heard it's such a common phrase that, you know, there are no grown autistics that haven't been traumatized. And because many of us hold different identities, different marginalized identities, we can be multiply traumatized. But separate to that, even when I was working recently consulting with diagnosing clinicians who were trying to kind of untangle with in cases to figure out, like, is this person autistic as well as trauma, you know, experiencing trauma, or is it just trauma? And one of the things that I found really useful, and the other clinicians are finding really useful to look at, is the positive sides. And I'm only talking about autism here, right? I'm not qualified to talk about other neurodivergencies, so I'm just speaking about autism. But the positive sides of autism, like our sense of where we can get into the flow and a hyper focus and really enjoy things, that can still exist alongside trauma. Whereas somebody who's only experiencing trauma and is not autistic won't be necessarily, I mean, very unlikely to also be able to experience autistic hyperfocus, for instance.
Or monotropism.
Yeah, well, exactly, you know, or I'm kind of using them interchangeably. They're so similar in that attention tunnel where you lose sense of time and you're just so engaged in the activity that you gain so much out of it. So that's one really kind of useful distinction to be able to look at if a person is questioning their own identity. Most likely if you're autistic, you'll also be traumatized, but being traumatized doesn't mean you're not autistic. So look for the positives, you know.
Exactly.
How much do you, like, all humans stim, we know that, but how much do you enjoy stimming? What do you get out of it? You know, how is it an expression of joy as well as regulation, as well as expressing distress? These kind of other ways of being that autistic people have as well. So just noticing those.
Thank you very much. So just to finish up, because you're all amazing people who have set up your own businesses, I haven't a clue. I find I'm not great with forms. I'm not great with phone calls. I'm not great with any bureaucracy of any type. Case in point, I was meant to get married and couldn't fill in the form. So we had the party, but I'm not officially married. Just because of the form, which is ridiculous. I'm well aware. So setting up a business is just far beyond my capabilities. So, but do you have any tips for other neurodivergent people who might, hopefully aren't as bad as me, but might be similar to me, but want to set up their own business? Katie, I'll come to you first, and then I'll ask you. If okay.
I absolutely do have some tips here, and I will say it's not an easy road, and I don't think it's easy for neurotypicals either. I don't think business is easy for anybody, but I think a big thing as a neurodivergent person for me was getting a handle on the things I knew I wasn't good at, like organization, like sequencing, like prioritization of tasks, like breaking things down, like the form filling and all that sort of stuff you mentioned. I have a business partner who has a very different set of skills to me, very complementary, and she's sort of like the yin to my yang. That's been a big part of making my journey easier. She's much more compartmentalized, whereas I'm a human firework. So she's sometimes we joke that she's my handler, but she's so much more than that. You know, she really is the yin to my yang. But even within the two of us, there are things that we're both not good at. And I think what you need to do is recognize that you cannot and should not do everything, and you can't be good at everything. And if you are in the position to be able to outsource things, then you should consult people who know better than you and go along the flow of, this person knows and I don't, so they're going to help me. Another thing I would say is to connect with your local enterprise office. I found that really valuable for me in terms of how to take the steps. I did a start your own business course, and it was quite manageable because I was working full time anyway. It was one day a week for 10 weeks, and it really helped me kind of put all the steps into place. It really helped me figure out like what is required. I think, again, another thing, had I known I could connect with other neurodivergent professionals, that would have been helpful too. So hopefully somebody finds today helpful. I think networking is really important, and I personally hate networking, but it is beneficial. And I found along the way, I met people I liked, like my accountant. I just met him and liked him. My financial advisor, I just met him and liked him. They speak to me in a way, just do not need the jargon because I will not get it. So can you just tell me straight what I need to do? Great. So I would definitely say including people around you that can help you kind of tackle the bits that you know aren't your strengths and work to what you're good at.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Tara, I know you said that it was a very long time ago that you set up a business, but do you have any tips that you can think of?
I think lean into, like, everything that Katie's been saying there is really so brilliant. I just haven't been able to do all those things. I find, sometimes the things, but you still can't do them. Like, I still can't network. I'm terrible at networking. I just cannot make myself do it. I cannot do the thing of talking to local enterprise centres. I cannot pick up the phone and make a phone call. Just cannot do it. I can't make myself do it. So I really feel that there are some barriers that I've kind of struggled with in my career. I have two businesses, and one of them I run with my husband, and it's similar actually to what you were saying there, Katie. We're yin to yang, and we really pick up the slack where each other can't. And then now with Thriving Autistic, this is really new for me because it's a non-profit, and I've never worked in a non-profit before. I've always ran businesses which is for profit. So Thriving Autistic, I'm volunteer there. I'm struggling with that in the sense of like, we need to do forms and get funding and stuff. And I don't know how to do forms, and I don't want to pick up the phone and talk to someone in a local health center or economics area. So I am like, we're doing a call out at the moment, looking for people to come and help support us to get that kind of, who have those skill sets and would like to contribute, so we can create more programs for people. But from the for-profit stuff, I have just gone with my strengths, like I hyper focus. I work through the night and then sleep in the day if it needed to be, just to go with the flow. For me, the focus thing is, I almost see it like the sea and a tide. So the tide coming in, and when I feel that energy, I just go with it, and then
ride the wave.
I ride the wave, yeah. And then when it goes, I just take no guilt free, just take the time off and just know that creativity will come back and the energy and motivation will come back. And it's worked really well for me, but I know it is not the typical way to do things.
Yeah. And Evelyn, do you have any tips for anybody who might want to start their own?
Don't. No, I'm joking. Don't bother. No, I suppose it is really rewarding. I think actually working for ourselves is probably, I'd imagine a lot of people who run their own businesses are neurodivergent. I think it kind of suits us. And we're not in, we don't have to deal with that hierarchical structure in a lot of workplaces. I think that for me is massive. I think trusting yourself is probably at that, and it's not like trust yourself. That's so easy. We know it's not. It's really hard to believe in ourselves, and I think have the confidence. I think that's probably a massive barrier for a lot of us, is always kind of second guessing ourselves, that imposter syndrome, but like, I think if probably a good tip would be look around at other people who are doing the thing you want to do, and look up, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't have the know-how, don't have the skill set that you might have, but they just do it because they have the confidence, you know what I mean? And I think it's that lack of confidence that holds a lot of us back. And I think that would probably be the biggest tip, is to try and work on that, and like take advice, go ask people, and from people who will encourage you. Try not to listen to the people who are like, what? I remember one of my family saying to me at one point, I just left college, they were like, well, most people like, go get a job, Evelyn, like, because I was doing the different thing of like just working for myself, setting up business, and it was like, yeah, well, I'm not most people, but those things stick in your head. It's like, just don't listen to them. Luckily I had a friend who was like, well, do you think Richard Branson listened to people who told him? I was like, yeah, actually, you do have to be selective about like where you get your support, who you listen to, what you listen to, and just try and like keep working on that positive self-talk. You can do it. And I think, like the others have said, don't do everything yourself. Like literally, I've done that. That's what leads to burnout a lot of the time. Is it can be not knowing who to ask for help. It can be like that fear of asking other people for help. Like you'll help everybody else, but you're afraid to ask other people for help. I think it is that networking is so important, and it's so like, I know what you're saying, Tara, like the fakeness. I'm like, because I actually joined Network Ireland recently, so it's for women in business, and it's fine. It's kind of Zoom, so I've just done one or two of those breakout rooms. We were just kind of chatting for a little bit of time, and we had a real life meetup recently, and I was actually going, it was fine, but I actually said it at it. I was like, I just hate networking events where you go and you're like pretending to talk to people, but you're trying to sell them something, and I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't do the fake stuff. I like going and chatting to people and getting to know people. And yeah, maybe, you know what I mean? You find out someone who can help you or you can help them, but it's the fakeness of it that I can't deal with. So, but like, I'm ready to do that kind of thing now, whereas I wasn't before. So I suppose, yeah, do things when you're ready is probably another tip. There you go. That's it.
There we go. We sorted out that now. We're putting neurodivergent entrepreneurs all over Ireland now.
But
So
also, sorry, Gillian, like,
yes,
if there are people watching this, they'd like to reach out to me, you know what I mean? I'm quite happy to, and I know we're talking recently about possibly setting up some sort of network for neurodivergent business owners or people like that. So, you know, do reach out to us, because I'm always happy to tell people the mistakes I've made, because that's kind of how I learned everything. You know?
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's such a generous offer. So I think that's it. And thank you so much for taking, as I said, I am very well aware that you're all very, very busy people. So I really appreciate you taking out time out of your schedules to record this with us. I hope you get a chance to come to some of the Neuro Pride stuff. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks so much. I mean, I think we're all real huge fans of Neuro Pride and everything that you're doing, and it's a real honor to be part of it. So thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.